to the February edition of HR Hot Topics. I'm your host, Jody Schaefer, and to my Michigan Optometric Association members, welcome back. This is now the third episode you've had of this video series. I hope you're loving it, and you're really going to love this month's episode. I have Eric Hanna with me. He's the owner of Mode Health, and Eric's entire goal with this company is to make the health insurance landscape easier for employers to navigate. And as Optometric Association members, you know this on the provider side as well. So please tune in. Eric's got a lot to share with us today, and I'm excited to have him. And I know Eric, actually not as a fellow business owner, I know Eric from when I hired him to be a practice administrator for a large medical practice here in the Lansing area. And Eric is now on this new venture, and it's helping all of us look at health insurance and the way that we design plans as employers a little bit differently. And so I'd like to kick it to Eric now just so he can give you a bit more background on the different perspectives he has on this topic, and then really to talk about some of the pain points that he's experienced sitting in the employer seat and how we can start to think about that a little bit differently.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me in. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like you said, I've seen healthcare from multiple perspectives. I ran healthcare organizations and healthcare administration, so doctor practices and rehab facility. Mm-hmm. So I got to understand how providers and facilities are paid through the health insurance system. I was a decision maker, or at least an influencer, on what benefit plans we were offering our employees. So I know the angst every year, renewal time, and how that feels, and
how you're going to pay for it, right?
That's it. And timing, and it always feels condensed, and all these sort of things. And then from the agent broker side, I've seen this, and how certain companies that are performing really well, some of the things that they're doing, that's really exciting and innovative. And so I look at this from a continuum. How are we paying into this insurance system and into the healthcare system, and then how it's paying out to providers. And the good news is there's another way to do it. The challenge, of course, is that the system today has some flaws,
right,
for lack of a better word. And one of them is the financial incentives are misaligned. Financial incentives for the healthcare system are misaligned with our priorities as an employer or the employee.
Yeah.
So it's not set up to drive down our costs. And that's a major problem. The other problem is we've been kind of conditioned to manage that renewal system, right? We get our renewal, every year, and it's usually within a tight timeline of when
it's kind of a 60-day focus, right? On, oh no, it's health insurance time, and we've got to dive back into what our options are, which always seem limited, right? I'm just talking from my own experience here as being on the employer side feels limited. We don't really understand it. We're relying on a really good agent to educate us. And there are some out there, and they're worth their weight in gold, but unfortunately I have not run into enough of them. So I'm trying to, make decisions in a space that I'm somewhat ill-informed on. And at the end of the day, I walk out with basically the same plan for more money for the same number of employees, regardless of how healthy or unhealthy my population was last year. Because if I'm a small employer, it's all based on age. It's age rated. So if I have an older, more experienced workforce and I want to offer insurance, I'm going to pay through the nose for it.
That's right. Yeah, the system is tricky that way. And in that traditional fully insured space for small groups in particular, there's not a lot of control, as if you do all the right things, health and wellness or whatever things you do to help educate your employees, there's not a lot you can do. You're going to see that 8, 10, 12, 15% increase
every year.
And that's being stuck in that fully insured world. Now, that's not to say it's not appropriate for some groups. It is. It's a good option for some groups. But, my perspective on this is that's not it. And it's certainly not.
It doesn't have to be the only option.
That's right.
Right.
And so back to how the incentives are aligned, we need to understand that the broker quite often is incentivized to keep employers in those fully insured plans.
Sure.
And that's just the nature of that business.
Yep.
Now, again, the way I look at this is, if we create a broader strategy and how we pay for it, including insurance, is part of that strategy, it's not entirely the strategy. Now we can put it into alignment with the rest of our business. We don't handle our business in that 60-day window. We handle our business 12 months out of the year. Well, why aren't we doing that in the benefit space, right? I kind of think of it as like the the grocery cart with the bumpy wheel, right? We've gone too far to go back. And so we just sort of deal with it.
The cart's almost full and you're like, yeah.
So you just figure you're just going to deal with it till next go around, right? And then it doesn't get any better.
Right.
So we have to behave different if we want a different result. And
so
there are
let's talk
options,
about
right?
that. Let's talk about some of the options, because you said, from the broker or agent side, which you've also had some time to be in that space, you have seen organizations of different sizes. You don't have to be a big employer to get creative with this, but you do need an expert to guide you through some of these more creative options. So what are some of the things that you're seeing organizations do that are not traditional in the sense of how we've sort of been conditioned to look at insurance?
So as I said before, having a strategy that's in alignment with the rest of the business picture is really important. Well, how do you build that strategy? And in my mind, there's three pieces that businesses who are performing well in this space, what they're doing. Number one, they're educating their employees on health literacy, and I use the word training, maybe a little different than wellness.
Okay.
Right? How are we taking a training model? We already have a training system for other HR related issues. Why don't we fold that in and have, making sure that the employer is happy with, the employee understands what a copay is versus a co-insurance, deductible versus out-of-pocket max. Understand the products.
In-network, out-of-network.
Right. What does that mean to me?
Max.
Right? I think we hand over that card and we wait for the result and hope we don't have to pay a lot.
Well, and in reality, right, when people have questions, people being your employees, and they run into these same things, they don't understand it, who do they go to? They go to us as the employer, and we don't know. So I love this idea of more proactive training, but I'm sitting here listening to this video thinking, Eric, I run, I run an HR business. I don't run a healthcare business. So who's going to do the training?
Right. So that's part of the service that I provide, is helping to create that strategy with that health literacy piece as a really key part. Because to me, the best way to not spend money on healthcare is to not need to go use the healthcare system. Right. So the other step is, how do we navigate it better, and understanding that if I use my telehealth, it might cost me $30, but if I go to the ER, it might cost me $800 for the same thing. Right. And might get the same outcome.
And one might actually be more convenient for me.
For sure.
Right. No so the understanding of what do these terms mean? And then this next part, when I have to use this system, how do I do so in a cost-effective way? Just like we would with other choices we make. And Eric and I were sort of talking offline before we shot this video that employers have the option to create an offering for their employees that is not 100% dependent upon a fully insured plan. You can go that route, and many of us have, but there's combination plans that you can come up with where insurance is going to pay a portion and you as the employer are going to split the other half with maybe your employee. So this idea of skin in the game, that if we use the system well and we aren't as costly as a result, that the employee and the employer can see cost savings versus just increases. So some really creative plan designs are out there, especially if you're a small employer and the traditional offering just is cost prohibitive for you. I really would like to, just sort of tout Eric's services here, but because that's really what Mode Health was designed to do, is to help to come alongside an employer and act as that subject matter expert that's not representing one specific carrier or plan, but really to help you decide what are our goals as an organization around health, and how are we going to help our employees manage this, and how are we going to help with costs? And then putting together some of these creative options and being with the employer throughout the entire year, not just at open enrollment time to help with that.
That's a key part. We need to engage the employer and the employee at least monthly around training and education. And then people become more confident. And my goal in this is to help the employees become really savvy healthcare consumers, and so that they get rewarded for that good consumer behavior that we do in all other aspects of our life, right? We go to the restaurant on Saturday night, we check out Yelp and find out, prices and menu and all that stuff, but we haven't really got there yet in healthcare.
And the information's coming, right? There is more transparency in pricing for sure. and some of this consumer, the health and wellness initiatives are coming. So we're getting there, but I think there's more to go. Well, thanks for joining us. As always, you can reach me directly, Jody Schaefer at workwithhrn.com, and we'll be sure to list Eric's contact information as well if this topic resonated with you, which I hope it did. And for my MOA members, remember, you can access me for free, half hour every month as part of your MOA membership. So if you have questions on health insurance or anything else that might be in the HR sphere, feel free to give me a call and I'm happy to help. And until next month, folks, happy February.